Fiji was known as the cannibal capital of the world before the British explorers and the missionaries came here. The Fijians worshipped their ancestors. They had lots of different spirit gods, very superstitious people, and they were very vicious cannibals. Every war ended up in eating other people, believing you can get their powers. Every Fijian temple that was built required 16 human sacrifices, 4 men to hold each of the 4 pillars of the temple voluntarily. And so when the first missionaries came here in the mid-1800s, you know, it was a time of great risk, you know, those who came. And yet it did not take very long after the missionaries came that they were successful in bringing the gospel. There was a high chief of Fiji, Ratusero Vakambao, who was also a pretty vicious cannibal. And once he embraced Jesus Christ and the gospel, he really was part of leading Fijian people to accept Christ. And it didn't take long before the gospel started to spread through the lands.
For generations, students in Europe and America and most of the developed world have been taught evolution's of facts. Science can explain everything. Everything can be explained without God. And it becomes locked in their thinking. It becomes reality. So there's this huge mountain of resistance you've got to get over to get them to even begin to consider the Bible. In nations such as this, that mountain doesn't exist. They're starting to hear all this information that essentially says you can't trust the Bible, but they haven't bought it all yet. They haven't swallowed that bite of the lie, the apple. So now we're preparing a whole generation with all the evidence that the Bible can be trusted. And then as the lie comes in, the truth has been firmly established, and the lie has the mountain to get past.
So in the United States of America, you're not going to walk into a school and talk about creation. It's not possible. But in Fiji, there is no actual law or restriction against talking about creation in schools.
As long as they cover the national curriculum, they're allowed to talk about God and memorize Bible verses, kind of like America 100 years ago. But what both he and the leaders of the country were noticing was the textbooks, the curriculum strongly promoted the idea that everything made itself, that evolution's a fact, that there's been a big bang, there's been millions and billions of years of Earth history, totally leaving God out.
He had this beautiful book called Inspired Evidence, the 365-day creation science devotional. He said, what do you think the chances are if I were to print up 18 or 20,000 that we could give these away to students in schools? And just with that suggestion and a bit of prayer, I said, let's do it. Let's give this a chance. And so with that, we met a couple of principals who were willing to allow us to come in. And God miraculously opened up, I think, a little over 25 schools that year with Inspired Evidence.
These kids read these books over and over again. It's not like they would just read a page and be done. They would read page after page, and when they finished it, they'd go read it again.
And it was so well received. The students were so happy. The principals were so happy. We met again after this, and our team asked ourselves this question: would it be possible to do this throughout the entire country? There's 178 high schools across the country. Why couldn't we do this in the whole country? It was not too long after that we received a letter from the Ministry of Education giving us permission to go into the schools of Fiji with our Pearls in Paradise and Creation Science team.
this is the first time they will have a book that belongs to them. They take ownership of them. They take it home and they can write their name on it. They own it.
We had no idea the outcome. We had no idea where the funds were going to come from. But God was faithful, and we continued in obedience. I truly believe there will be thousands of Fijians in heaven someday because of this work. The impact continues and grows. Each trip brings exciting new testimonials.
His principal stood up and he said, "Today I have heard it from the horse's mouth, from real scientists, that what my Bible says is true. It is reliable." And he held his Bible up in the air and he said, "My faith in this Bible has been reaffirmed." And he said, "As long as I am in leadership at this school, this will be a creationist school that will teach the truth about creation."
She's a Christian, and she's the principal of a Hindu school, a very large Hindu school in Suva. So what she does is she photocopies the whole book and she gives it out to her class as part of her English lesson. And also on the loudspeaker each morning, she would read a page for their devotion.
Students have taken books home, shared them with neighbors in apartments across the door. A student took a book home. They had a Chinese neighbor next door who happened to walk by, saw the student reading this book, asked the student what it was. The student explained that it was a devotional. Every day is a different topic on science and God. He was very intrigued. She invited him to church. He came to church the next Sunday. We were preaching. He accepted the Lord as his Savior that Sunday. So the impact is happening, and it's just amazing. So far, we've had 2 trips where we've distributed the Pearls in Paradise book. We have went to 55 high schools and distributed 31,000 books of the 140,000 that have been sent here to Fiji. So we're only about a fourth of the way along, and yet as we look at a map and we see all these pins of the schools we've already done and the ones that are yet to do, it's an enormous impact in the major metropolitan areas. But I'm thinking of the overall impact when this project is done, and we're going to go to every single high school in the entire nation. It's this bond and teamwork between American Christians and Fiji Christians, and all of us with the goal of bringing the next generation into a saving, real, believing knowledge of Jesus Christ. And I just want to thank the Christians that have sacrificed and sent gifts that I just can't imagine to make all this possible. And I just want to, with deep sincerity, I want to thank people who have sacrificed to be part of all this. And I know someday in heaven they're going to see the impact just as I will, because I think there's going to be this ripple effect that will continue even into the next generation based on what we're doing here today.
You know, when you're a missionary to a foreign country, you're always looking for an open door. As you go into these countries, there's always barriers, hindrances to you being able to preach the gospel. Nothing has given us more open doors in this country, in the 23 years that I've been here as a missionary, than Creation Science and Pearls in Paradise. In Fiji, we can't really go to the villages, the outer islands and the provinces. Well, with the Pearls in Paradise project, it is the Ministry of Education that is authorizing us to go up to every school. Well, where are these schools located? These schools are located in the outer islands, in the provinces, out in the villages, places we would never be able to go. And it is now the school that is bringing the students together. And what do we now have an open door to do? We have an open door to teach creation, to teach the science behind it, but where do we always end? We end with the gospel. And the books that we give them have a beautiful presentation of the gospel that's going to stay in those villages, stay with those people.
We're leaving this morning for the Asawa Islands. Our entire team is going to take 2 little boats and 400 books that will be carried ashore through the water, where we'll speak in 2 high schools to students who very seldom have visitors. They will get to hear about the reality that God is their creator and their savior. So our entire team is extremely excited today. One of the great things about this is that it's not just an assembly and handing out a book.
It's almost like the Creation Science Ministry is now opening their eyes to, hey, there is a God. And now we come follow up with Character Under Construction. We're in the schools every 2 weeks, and now we're showing them practical application. What does it mean to me? What does it mean to the students? So we're able to teach that if there is a creator, that now they have a responsibility and an accountability to that creator.
And so, but even as a church, so we've been blessed as people come, and they talk about the book that they have received, because as these scientists go out and distribute the book, they said if you have any questions, go to this church. So the scientists themselves have really helped as well, and so people that have come, we've got school teachers from Sila, that have come because of the book. And so it has now, set a connection.
Especially Hindu schools. I'm so grateful that they open up their doors for us. And that Muslim school in Lautoka, they had us, they said yes for us to come to them. That is a no-no for Fiji, but that is prayers answered.
Everything about this project has been a miracle. This has not been somebody's good creative plan. This has been the Lord's doing.
It's like God has orchestrated the whole thing on every level and every step of the way, and we have just had to be willing to be part of it. It's just an honor. We can't take the credit for what's going on here. God is the one who's really done it all. And it's just a matter of obedience. So we've already been invited to other Pacific Island nations, such as Vanuatu, Samoa, to the Philippines, and we've scheduled these trips. We've printed the books, we've had them shipped there. With the smaller nations, such as Vanuatu, in 1 2-week period, we can cover the high schools in the entire nation, and that's what we're planning to do. In a nation like the Philippines, which is 100 times bigger than Fiji, we're going to make this teeny little dent. And again, I think my faith can't even imagine having the impact on a nation that large, but we serve a large God. We serve an unimaginable God. So I don't know what the future holds. I just have seen with my own eyes the potential of changing the future of a nation, lining an entire generation's thinking up with the reality of what God has told us is the past and what He has done in the past, and presenting what He can do individually in every single human heart if we just accept Him as our Savior. And I know that is impacting lives.